Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron. I hope you're having a great day or night in Jesus. We're going to look today, is there vestigial organs in the body? And we're using kind of as a discussion starter, creation versus evolution, Dr. Arlo Molenpaul. So let's get started. This has to do with creation versus evolution. I think Dr. Molenpaul does a very good job in this. So on page 37, again, thanks for being here. Do check out our other videos and share with your friends and family. And subscribe, hit the bell notification. Thanks. All right, so what does the term vestigial even mean? So it means remaining as a vestige, a slight remnant or trace of something that has disappeared, no longer fully developed or useful. In other words, vestigial means useless. Vestigial organs are organs for which no function has been demonstrated. It's postulated they were once functional, but in the course of evolutionary history, they lost their usefulness and gradually deteriorated. At one time, evolutionists listed 180 structures and organs of man they thought were useless. I will say they found out that there are uses for them, like the pineal gland and things. And you have the old evolutionary biology, the God part of the brain that was developed to try to keep mankind under control. But so it was like man created God, God didn't create man kind of thing. But everything basically that's been seen as vestigial at one time is no longer seen that. Now, I'll say when I was young, back in the 60s, 70s, this was kind of just mainstream thinking that there were vestigial organs and that as we evolved, we no longer needed the appendix and all of this. So let's look at a few of these. Okay, so the pituitary gland was once seen as vestigial, useless. Something that evolution, which in true evolutionary theory, it shouldn't have been passed down, but it was. The pituitary gland is now known to be so important for growth and other reasons, it's called the master gland of the body. The tonsils are now found to help fight off infection. And that was quite the revelation. When I was a kid, everybody got their tonsils taken out pretty much. And now it's like, well, it really did serve a purpose. It wasn't vestigial. I was told it was vestigial when my tonsils were removed. The coccyx, some pelvic muscles that are very essential to us, are attached to it. A person cannot sit comfortably without the coccyx as it protects the end of the spinal column. Some people incorrectly refer to this as a tail. To be a tail structure must be a caudal appendage, tail-like thing attached to something larger, like an arm, leg, or fin, with its own muscles, nerves, and blood supply. The coccyx in the human is not a separate and distinct structure, but is merely the bottom of the backbone. After all, the backbone does have to end someplace. So again, they would say, boy, that used to be a tail, like when we were reptiles or something. No, it's not. And here's another one that's pretty dramatic. I grew up, my mom had appendicitis, and so I kind of grew up with a fear I was going to have appendicitis because she used to tell me the story of her appendicitis attack, how she almost died, and she lived in a very rural area over in Douglas, Georgia. So here's the appendix. The fact that it often causes trouble is not sufficient reason to say it's useless. Other parts of the body, such as the throat, are also subject to infection. Does that mean the throat is vestigial? So then he lists, now this is kind of a dated book. They've since kind of honed in on what the appendix does. But adding lubricating fluids to contents of intestines, secreting small amounts of digestive juices, and possibly manufacturing some white blood cells. It is interesting to note that some monkeys have no appendix. If an appendix is vestigial, then all evolutionists would have to say that a monkey has evolved further than man because he got rid of it when we have it. Thus, using a vestigial appendix as an argument for evolution is very superficial. So here's some conclusions that Dr. Molenpaul brought out, and I think you'll find interesting on the subject of vestigial organs. There's no evidence where useless organs deteriorate, nor is there evidence that organs are in the process of evolving into something useful. Again, to me, that's one of the greatest proofs of creation and sudden creation like we see in Genesis 1 is that everything's fully formed and fully filled. There's no partial structures within us. And the centropy, closed structures operating in unison with other closed structures, to me, it's just impossible for evolution to have happened. And this was William Paley's point in natural theology, which all graduates of Cambridge had to read through the 1920s. So also about vestigial organs, Dr. Mullen-Paul goes on to say, the function of an organ may not yet have been discovered. Though the thyroid, pituitary gland, and tonsils were all regarded as vestigial for many years, we now know that all have function. Also, an organ's function may be taken over by another organ when it's removed. For example, the spleen produces red corpuscles before birth, but in the adult, it ordinarily does not. However, in cases of severe hemorrhage, the spleen may resume its function. Also, the human body has the same organs as a margin of safety, such as the kidneys and lungs. One can live with only one kidney or one lung, but God created us in His image and His likeness, and this is for safety. So the list of useless structures decreases as our store of knowledge increases. As any part functions during the developing person or animal, even though it may not in the adult, it cannot be called vestigial. The ignorance of scientists about specific functions of structure does not prove they have no function. Boy, I would agree with that. I did also want to read his last paragraph here. It says, whales have hip bones which support some of the internal organs and make places for the attachment of muscles. Though a whale is a mammal, it is strictly a figment of the imagination to claim that whales once walked, even though in South Florida they have the walking catfish. Evolutionists also thought the spur-like structures in snakes were once legs. It's now known that snakes use these structures for weapons and to secure traction during locomotion. So there's really no evidence for vestigial organs in the body, and so this really couldn't be used for evolution. And again, I'm 59. I hear this less and less from when I was a kid. Again, getting my tonsils out when I was 7 or 8 or however old I was. I think I was in 3rd grade. I remember Muhammad Ali was fighting some Japanese wrestler or something. I have to get my tonsils out. But anyhow, God's good. God is our creator, and I'm thankful. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.